Janetto, I'm Christina, and I'm so glad that you're here with me today. If you're new, welcome in. If you're returning, welcome back. No matter how long you've been here, I always appreciate your time. Uh, don't know how many people are going to watch this video, but I know that there are a few of you out there that like this kind of stuff. This is not yarny content. It's historical content, dealing with some of my travels. So I thought that I would share this with you all. But if you're not a history buff or you don't wanna, it's fine. But I do want to share this with you all because I think that it kind of connects some of the things that I've done so far and some of the places that I've been, which is really exciting. Excuse me. So I wanted to share it with you all. Uh, so right after my spring break from school, I went on a field trip with some of the students that I work with, and I was asked to go because one of the teachers is out, so there's a substitute, and they were like, as many licensed teachers as we certified teachers that we can have, the better. And there are parents and whatever. There were plenty of people, trust me. But it was nice to go and experience this because I enjoy learning about these kinds of things, even if the kids really weren't paying attention. Anyway, it's a whole different conversation. I'm not gonna have it here, but it's so. What am I talking about? All right, if you've seen the title, right, this is the invasion of Sicily from the Allied forces. It was known, or it is known as Operation Husky. It goes by a couple other names too, but Operation Husky is something that they refer to a lot. So this was during World War II, and I enjoy learning all kinds of things about multiple wars. One, because as an English teacher, when I taught high school, I really tried to tie the text that we were studying to the time that it was happening in. So history was a very important factor in the things that I was teaching. And one of the things that I was teaching was Night by Elie Wiesel, which is about the Holocaust and his experience in the concentration camps. So I have a big tie through my teaching, but also my grandfather, my pop. He fought in World War II. He was in the army in America, and he was stationed in Germany, and he was teaching classes actually, and everything was halted when they called like basically everyone to go help clean up the concentration camps. So when I was able to go with him to Washington D.C. to the Holocaust Memorial Museum that they have there, it was very hard for him to be there. It was very hard for him to go through the museum. He was like, in certain places, he was like, I need to go. I can't be in this room. I was on the other side of that camera when the picture was taken. Like he was telling me all these things, and eventually, um, he took my son down to the lobby of the museum, and they just waited for me. He was like, take all the time you need. I know this is important to you, and I'm glad that we could be here together. I just can't continue through the museum. It's too hard. Respectable. I mean, he lived it, so that would be really hard. I can imagine. So one of the things that I've tried to do here is bring some of that awareness. I mean, there is military awareness because it's a military base. But where we are and the people that are on the base with us, the different cultures, I try to represent all of them as best as I can. So we have Hispanic Heritage Month and the Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander Month. We have Black History Month. We have Native American Heritage Month. But I also am doing, last year we had a Holocaust survivor on a virtual conference with some of our students to speak to them after school because during school was way too early for her, but because she's in the States. So after school, we were able to have somebody speak to them, and it was very powerful and it was very moving. We did that during Holocaust Remembrance Week, which is coming up. So I try to celebrate those things with the children so they get an understanding of why all of these things matter and why it's important to continue to remember them and speak about them and not just lock them away like they never happened, or because we want to forget about them, or because it's in the past, or whatever. We want to make sure that we keep talking about these things so that they don't repeat themselves. Like, we learn from our mistakes. That's important to me, not just as a teacher, but as a human being and as a parent and as a citizen of the world, right? So all of those things matter. And since coming here, because Italy was one of the Axis powers, it's interesting to see how they treat World War II, because it's a very different perspective than it is in America. And the same thing, I haven't been to Germany, but I've seen a lot of videos about the German guilt and all of that, about things that have happened. There's so many different viewpoints, right? So when I heard that this was a thing, the field trip that they were going to go on, and I was asked to go, I was like, absolutely. Because Operation Husky was the Allies' way to but to begin the defeat of the Axis powers. So they were already winning battles in North Africa, and it was too much to go to France, like to just start there. And there was too much manpower waiting for them there. So the next best thing, right, was to go to Sicily. That made more sense, and to push up from there, because it's very easy to access mainland Italy from Sicily. Just go to Messina, and you're literally right there. Like I showed you guys pictures in a video that a place that I went during spring break. We were in Messina. I was standing there, and I could see Calabria, right? That's the province there. I could see it. It's right there in front of my face. I mean, probably take me a little bit to get across the strait there, but anyway, it's fairly simple to get there. And then from there they can move upwards. So what the Allies did is they tricked the Germans with a corpse and some false papers, and they kind of drew back to Corsica and Sardinia, and they weren't really paying attention to Sicily as far as an attack goes. So when the Allies came up, they came up, I might pronounce the name of this wrong, and I'm sorry, Gela, Gela, Gela. I'm not certain. I didn't listen to a pronunciation before I started this video. My apologies. But they started there, and then they spread out into Sicily, but mainly up, right? And in the museum that we went to, it's in Catania, so it's not very far from the base. But the first thing that they did is they took us into this area where it was like, this is what a typical area, a square would look like in Sicily, in Catania, before the war. And it was a recreation. The buildings were recreation, but they said that everything inside, as much as possible, was salvaged from businesses and homes and things like that. So they were period pieces. And so then you go through, and you're in like a bomb shelter. And it's like a reenactment of when the bombs were falling on Sicily. They leave the doors open, but it is, I mean, it shakes and you hear the noise and it's semi-realistic. I mean, you can feel the shaking and the rumbling and the lights flickering, and you can't feel the lights flickering, but you see them flickering. And then as you come out of the shelter, everything is destroyed. So what was the square, right, as you come, you're going in a different direction, but as you're coming out, you can see it's all like down, roofs are caved in, all this stuff. And then you continue through the museum, and it was hard for me when I was trying to take pictures. One, I was trying to make sure there were no children in them, but there's also certain things you can't take pictures of. There's also certain things that are only in Italian. No one spoke to us in this museum, other than in the beginning. They spoke to us in English. After that, they did not speak to us at all. Some of the plaques were in English and Italian, so I could try to understand what was going on and the perspective that they were giving us. One of the things that was really, really nice was after you go through that, you go through a little room and there's some videos, and you go through another room. There's this huge table with a map of Sicily, and it recreates the invasion. So when they land right on the beach, and then when they start to expand, you can see, and it has a timeline scrolling across the top. So you can see when it started and as Sicily was freed, right, from the fascist regime. So, and the Nazi regime, because the Nazis were here too. So you can see all of that, which isn't that's all, folks, which is interesting. So as we continue through the museum, you see the different gear and equipment and pieces that were from the different countries that were here. So you see the Italian military things, you see the Nazi military things, then you see the British, you see the Canadian, you see the American, all of these pieces, right, as you go through. And pictures will be scrolling across the screen as I'm talking. Maybe not exactly what I'm saying is going to be popping up on the screen, but pictures will be popping up. So some people say that this was a practice for D-Day. Maybe. But it was a very smart way to start moving upwards. And one of the other things that was a neat connection for me is they had air cover from Malta. So they had planes in Malta as well. And that's where some of the shrapnel, if you watch the video that I did when I went to Malta, because Malta was, and still is, I think, no, hold on, pause. Okay, sorry. Malta was, at the time, part of the British Empire, right? It was a piece of the British Empire. When I went there, they still drive on the opposite side of the road and all of those things. So the British had a way to get aircraft there, and in one of the buildings that I went to, I did show you in the video, there was still shrapnel in the wall from World War II, which I was like, oh, making connections. That's kind of cool. As I was walking through the museum. The other thing that was really interesting was at the end of going through all of that, then once you get to the end of all of the equipment and different things that they had there from the different military, there was this special exhibit of a photographer who was in World War II and was capturing memories and experiences, but not just during World War II, but how lives have changed since World War II. And some of those pictures were very haunting and heartbreaking, and some of them were very uplifting and joyful, and it was nice to experience it. I would love to go back and just quietly walk through the photos. I think that would be a very nice experience, to be able to just quietly absorb all of those things. And then when we left the museum and we were having lunch, there was a little place like not far from the museum where you could go and you can see, of course, the ocean because it's an island. But I mean, you could see just how close you are, right, to the sea. So one of the biggest reasons why they came up where they did is because they were in northern Africa. So they were able to come straight up there, and then they started up the coast of Sicily, so where Catania, and then they moved into Palermo and across the island. But they were able to move in multiple areas because they came up from the bottom, so they could go left, they could go up and across that way before, going up to mainland Italy. So that's what I have for you all. I really did enjoy learning. I tried to read as much as I could. It was hard. Attention spans being what they are and such. We'll just leave it there. But I hope that you've enjoyed the experience. I am going to leave at least one or two links down below. There is an MWR trip. I did not go on it, but there is an MWR trip that takes you to the beach where they came up. For where Operation Husky began. So maybe when that comes around again, maybe I'll get to go and give you guys a little update on that. Maybe add some things to that story there. But like I said, different perspectives and different sides, but still remembering what happened, still talking about it, still remembering the devastation and the destruction, and understanding that moving forward, we don't want to repeat those kinds of things to any degree. So let me know what you think. If you have any information about Operation Husky and you want to put it in the comments, or anything else about World War II that you might have information on, if you had family that served, if you served, anything that you would like to share, I would appreciate your comments. And I thank you very much for those of you that stuck with this, because like I said, it's important to me that I try to share these kinds of things with my students. And I always have, as much as I possibly could. When I was in the States, we went to internment camp museums. We went to all kinds of real life experiences that we could understand the impact that these kinds of things had on not just the places but the people that were there, and how that expands over time. So I will leave it at that. Thank you very much. Be well, be safe, and as always, be the change you wish to see in the world, everyone. Ciao bella!